B students. I'm Sanne.
And I'm Victoria.
And we are here today to prepare you for the formal writing in English C. In comparison to English B, English C is a rather demanding course, as you might have heard, since it contains a lot of formal writing. During the course, you will be asked to write many different kinds of texts that differ greatly from each other.
You might think that this is completely unnecessary and boring, and you will ask yourself, why don't write in the same way all the time? This is because different situations call for different ways of putting words together. The syntax, the words, and the vocabulary all changes as the occasion changes. You know yourself, you don't write in the same way to your teacher and your grandmother as you do to your best friend.
For this reason, we are now going to instruct you in how to write 3 different types of texts: an article, a report, and a competition entry. And hopefully it will help you when you are supposed to write these texts.
To begin with, we have the article. An article is a text you write to a newspaper or a magazine where you summarize a topic comprehensively. It is somehow informative. However, you're still free to choose from which point of view you want to highlight the subject.
Let's take an example. A magazine is asking you to write an article about Valentine's Day. The first thing you have to do is to delimitate the subject. Do you want to write about the history of Valentine's Day and why we are celebrating it today? Or do you want to give the readers some tips about how to make the perfect Valentine's date? The choice is all yours.
Moreover, the article has 4 main parts, and those are the title, an introduction, the body, and a conclusion.
Firstly, you want to give your article a good title because you want it to be eye-catching and interesting, and therefore the title is very important because it's the first thing that the reader sees. The title should somehow tell something about your subject, and if we refer back to the Valentine's Day article example, a suitable title could be something like how to make the perfect Valentine's date. Secondly,
you write the introduction. This is the chance for you to catch the reader's interest and make them want to read on. Strictly speaking, if you don't have an exciting and interesting introduction, the reader probably won't keep read on.
In addition, there are many ways of how to engage the reader. One way is by giving a visual example of a situation or by asking a question. What you want to do is to appeal to the reader's imagination and to involve them in your text.
Thirdly, we have the body, and this is where your main text will be. This is the part where you actually give the information of the subject or what have you. In our case, we were talking about Valentine's Day and how to make the perfect date. You can choose if you want to write a debate article or if you just want to be more informative.
Furthermore, the body is often divided into several sections, and naturally you start a new paragraph when you change topic to not make any confusions or to mix it all up for the reader.
Finally, sum up your article with an interesting conclusion that summarizes your text and brings up your main thesis statement. Naturally, this is where your article ends, and you want the conclusion to be memorable.
Last of all, there are one small thing that we want to bring up about the article, and that is the language to use. Some articles are written in a very formal way, and some with a more informal and lively tone. This all depends on who is going to read your article, and that you must think about and then adjust your language after.
So, dear English B students, that was just one thing. We're now moving on to the report. So, what is a report? A report is a textual work made with the specific intention of relying information of recounting certain events in a widely presentable form. You concentrate on the analysis to an issue. You also have to be very formal, otherwise no one will take your report serious. What you also need to know is that the report has three main parts: an introduction, a body with suggestions, and a conclusion.
In the introduction, you have to be very clear about what the aim of the report is. Let's say that we have gotten to know that there are a very high amount of people that are skipping paying their taxes. And you have been asked to write a report about this and to come up with some ideas of how to solve the problem. In the introduction, you can then start by writing the aim of this report is to make people pay their taxes, or this report is based on the low amount of people paying their taxes, or so on. You should keep the introduction very short and concise to not lose the interest of the reader.
Step 2 is the body. The most important thing here is the suggestions. When you write a report, you have to give suggestions for the reader for the different measures. The suggestions have to be appropriate to the report.
Yes, this is the part where you actually comes up with your ideas of how to solve the problems. And something that is very important here is to use subheadings. Often you have more than one suggestion, and therefore it's very important that you divide it up. So, yeah, to separate your suggestions from each other's. To not confuse the reader. Something that is also very important is to use linking words to make your report trustworthy.
And last but not least, we have the conclusion. To sum up your report, you need to write a clear conclusion. Use words like "I have no hesitation in recommending to" or "in conclusion." Those phrases will give your report a convincing conclusion.
And lastly, we are going to learn how to write a competition entry. The purpose of writing a competition entry is to convince someone that you should win whatever there is to win. Let's say there is a magazine with a competition where they ask people to describe their best holiday memories, and that the one with the best entry will win an iPhone, for example. What you want to do then is to write a text where you describe your best holiday memory, send it in, and by this convince the reader that you are the one to win.
First, you start to write a clear and short introduction where you're supposed to make the reader interested and want them to read on. As in the article, it's good to use questions to make them feel involved in the entry.
In this case, we're supposed to tell the reader about our best holiday memory, and this is a very good situation where we can appeal to the reader's imagination by giving a visual example. We could start the introduction and the entry by writing something like, "Imagine yourself, a hot summer day, not a cloud on the sky, a giant beach and a crystal clear ocean. This pictures my best holiday memory in Thailand."
Secondly, we have the body, and here is where your main text begins. Here is where your argument for why you should win. However, you're not supposed to write "I should win because," but you have to be convincing in your writing.
In the competition we brought up as an example, this is the actual part where you describe your best memory and tell the reader about why it was so great. Something that is very important in this type of text is to vary your sentence patterns by using a range of linking words and phrases. You don't want to bore the reader by being repetitive. And obviously you want the reader to connect with your entry and empathize with it, since this will increase your chances to actually win the competition.
Lastly, we have the conclusion. You briefly summarize your text and make your statement clear. This part doesn't have to be very long, but it's very important because it's your final chance to really convince the readers that you should win.
And that was it. Now we have walked you through how to write 3 different types of texts, and we really hope that it's been helpful and that it will make your writing a little bit easier when it's time for that. And we want to thank you all for watching.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Saddle me up and let's begin. I am a wild one, tame me now. Running with wolves and I'm on the prowl.